Hello, welcome back to Waffle Press Movie Podcast. I'm your host, David Crespo, and with me I have another Sean, the original Sean from our action movie themed month of May, Sean Fallon. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. Good morning or good evening for you, I think.
Yeah, good evening here in the States. Good morning to you in Australia.
Yeah, I've
God,
just
yeah, I mean that's God. Time's weird, and I think time is a theme in, or at least one of the themes in the movie we're going to talk about today, because this is August, the science fiction themed movie month. Uh, I came up with a theme for May of action because Mad Max Fury Road. This month for Fantastic Four.
hmm.
Yeah, uh, big difference in quality there. But what movie did you want to talk about today?
Yeah, it was hard to sort of pick a sci-fi movie, but I've gone with Star Trek 2, Wrath of Khan.
Which
And I was
is
like,
it's so good.
oh,
I
it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's really quick. Let's just get right into it then. Star Trek 2 is actually my gateway to Star Trek movies. I had never seen a single Star Trek related item, episode, nothing until I saw this movie on a Christmas weekend with some family members at my grandpa has a ranch not far from where I live, actually ridiculously far from where I live, but we get together every Christmas there, and we watched Star Trek Wrath of Khan, and I had never seen it or anything, and so I was kind of blown away at the time because I grew up a Star Wars guy first, and then I was introduced to Star Trek from this, and it without Wrath of Khan, I would not be as into Star Trek as I am. So, Sean, talk about a little bit how Wrath of Khan influenced you in the sci-fi realm.
It was really like you say, yeah, I've always been Star Wars, never really got into any Star Trek. I think I've probably watched, I would say, 5 episodes of any of it, any of the TV shows. I probably never watched any of the originals. And I remember watching a really good episode of Next Generation where it's going off topic a little bit, but they're cleaning the ship, and then terrorists come, and then Picard diehards his way through the ship. And it's absolutely amazing. And like Picard's just a full badass, just killing all the dudes. It's amazing. But I think my folks were sort of into the movies, and they were always, I remember them always being on in the house, and they were always on TV in England. But I didn't really get into this film until I would say about 5 or 6 years ago. I lived briefly in South Korea, and a lot of the time was just sort of catching up on movies because I was like 26, 27 and just had loads of spare time. And I was on the AV Club reading some of their articles, and someone mentioned like how good Wrath of Khan is. I was like, whatever. So I tracked it down and I watched it, and it just blew my mind how good it was. And then just like that, and then straight away Search for Spock, and then Voyage Home, and just those three as like a loose trilogy, just spot on, just fantastic. I think as well with Wrath of Khan, it's an interesting one because we don't really talk about it in terms of like one of the best sequels. Because I think as the Star Trek thing's gone on for so long, you never really think about it as like first, second, third. But it's just such a tight, interesting, simple, brilliant film. I just love it. It's so good.
Yeah, I rewatched it earlier today, just before we did this, and I have a neighbor who's trying out a drum set, apparently. So thank you, guy. Uh, but I rewatched it again, and it didn't blow me away like it does now when I first watched it, but it got me really interested in the saga and the stories of these characters and their dynamics. And when I originally watched it, I assumed that it was only movies, first of all, and then I had to be explained that it was a TV show previously and became a huge franchise that I just never knew about. Uh, and I had assumed because Spock dies here at the end of this movie, and it's very emotional, that
Mm.
that the next movie would just be about Kirk and his son. Like I had no pre-established notion of these characters, but I just assumed like, oh, this movie is about those two friends, so then the next one's gonna be about him and his son, and it kind of was. I mean, he dies, but that's a whole other thing. But Wrath of Khan, yeah, it's one of those movies that ages like a fine wine too. As you get older, you kind of maybe not directly step into Kirk's shoes, but you kind of feel what he feels. You know, like he's not so much about just getting older, but it's about, you know, he's been out exploring the world, and he doesn't want to feel completely obsolete or anything. He wants to go out. He wants to go back on the voyage. And yeah, I think that's really beautiful. You know, it's sort of it's almost not Shakespearean, but maybe, you know, I'll say Shakespearean. Yeah, a little.
I'll go with that. I mean, yeah. I think that idea, and that's an idea I think that is in a lot of sci-fi, of becoming old, becoming obsolete, like, you know, being replaced, or, you know, the next generation's taken over and you're just a relic. And I think they do that really well, with obviously with Kirk and all that. And I think the thing that about Wrath of Khan is so good is, like, he's afraid of getting old. So the villain is literally one of his mistakes. You know, that's it. It's like a walking, talking mistake that you made in your youth when you thought you knew everything has now come to face you at the end of your sort of career or whatever, when you are supposed to know everything. And I think that's amazing. Just very, very simple. Just, you know, oh yeah, you're afraid of getting old? Well, here's your past. Enjoy.
Yeah.
They're not going to try and kill you. Stop it, you know. And I love that.
Yeah, and Khan really is one of the best movie villains, I think. I think on par with Darth Vader, Joker, Predator. Yeah. I would put him up there. I know some people might feel differently. And I think that's actually what something like Star Trek Into Darkness missed, that he's not just a brute force who can conjure up a plot twist at the whim of a hat drop, you know, but he's an actual, like, character with his own ideologies and emotional core. And also here, like you perfectly stated, he lets Kirk reflect on a past mistake that he made back in the series, which in Space Seed, you know, he maybe letting him live was, you know, sure, that seems a little nice, but maybe he should have sent him to an intergalactic space prison or something.
Yeah.
Because obviously this was a terrible person, and he was an Indian warlord 200 years previously. And I love how ridiculous it is now that Khan was sent to space in 1996.
Yeah, no, I love that.
Oh, it's great. I love old science fiction like that.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, this, like, in 1996, we would be genetically making super soldiers, then they'd get out of control, so we'd need to freeze them and shoot them into space. When in fact, 1996 was like, we were all just sat around watching Friends, you know?
Oh, God. I mean, I don't know what's worse, to be honest. I'm just kidding. I like Friends fine. A little bit. That's another thing. Yeah. So, yeah, with Wrath of Khan, do you have any specific moments that, like, you really are drawn to? You know, I mean, the whole movie is pretty spectacular in being prime science fiction. And, really quick, also, I just figured out, it is just as Star Trek, the TV show, is the wagon hitched to the stars sort of premise. Yeah. This is very much an old Western type deal with an aging gunslinger looking back on his life and getting drawn back into one final fight. Naturally, there are like a dozen other movies after this, but I think for this movie, that suits the purposes. So yeah, any favorite moments?
Well, I always looked at it as more... I feel like this movie is like 2 rewrites away from just being like a World War II submarine movie. You know, it's very... Like, the ending is very much that idea of them obviously in space, and they can't see each other, and then it becomes that sort of thing of trying to feel each other out and work it out. And it's just that... And it's good in there because, like, Kirk doesn't win by luck. He wins by skill. He wins by experience. You know, it's that idea of, you don't need to be afraid to get old, because you're also getting wise. And he's like, when it comes to the end, it's like, no, I'm better than him, because he can't think 3-dimensionally. You know, that's the whole thing. It's like, I've had the experience, I know what to do, so that's how I'll beat him. And I love that. And I think that's something as well, not to completely go sick on Into Darkness, but...
No, go for it. I mean, I like it, but there are things that are worth talking about, for sure.
Well, I think, like, as a remake or a reboot of Khan, it just misses the point entirely. You know, I think the thing that's awesome in Khan is like Kirk and Khan never meet each other face to face. I think that's brilliant. I think that idea of like, I think Khan only meets Chekhov and that's it. You know, all the rest of it just like space stuff. You know, it's captain and all that. Whereas Into Darkness, the focus moves around too much, and then in the end, it's like Khan doesn't want revenge on Kirk. He wants revenge on RoboCop. Not Peter Weller.
Peter Weller, yeah.
And it's like, well, no, that's boring. That's rubbish because we've never seen that character before, and we know who Khan is. So have him against Kirk, it makes no sense. You know, and I think like Into Darkness, I quite enjoyed it until it was revealed that Benedict Cumberbatch was Khan. And then after that, I was like, oh, now I'm just going to make comparisons all the way through. And your film isn't as good because you've completely missed the point. And then, you know, magic blood at the end.
Oh, God. Okay. Yeah. I was blinded by that movie for a while. Like now I kind of want to talk about that just for a quick minute. Because
yeah, no, please, let's get into it.
Yeah. I mean, that it's a really entertaining movie still, I think. I think it's a good roller coaster. It's super dumb. After the halfway point, I think it's completely idiotic and nonsensical. Yeah. And the movie would have benefited if it didn't have a Khan reveal, because the Khan reveal is only for the audience.
Yeah.
My name is Khan. That's it.
It's got to be. He looks straight in the camera. It's like, my name is Khan, and then there's this music that goes. Yeah, we get it, mate. We get what that's the reveal. Don't have the reveal. Just have him be another bad guy, and then you don't create comparisons, and then the film's much better.
Yeah, I mean, John Harrison would have been fine. I think an original creation for a new original story with original cast members. I mean, that's what we wanted.
Yeah, that's it. Or have him be another one of Khan's men, and then you just get the little scene later on of all the torpedoes, and one of them has the word Khan on it. Like, oh, they just woke up a different guy. So it's sort of similar, but it's different.
Yeah.
Rather than,
And Benedict Cumberbatch looks like Khan's right-hand man a little bit.
It looks like
they missed it. They missed a perfect opportunity right there.
That's it. And then you just have that, and it's like, oh, okay, so it's sort of, again, with the new Star Treks of like the timeline splitting, it's like, well, what if Khan wasn't the one they woke up? It's this dude, and this dude's like Khan, but he's a bit worse or whatever, or he's a bit better or so. Like I did actually just before this, I watched the trailer for Into Darkness, and I was like, God, this film looked so fucking good, and just wasn't. There's a line in it I absolutely love where it's Khan says, you know, oh, I'm better. And Kirk's like, at what? And Khan's like, everything. I'm like, oh, I love that. That scenery nonsense. Like, I love that. But yeah, the film just couldn't sustain it, which was a shame. Because I do like the reboot, the first reboot. I love it. It's really good.
Oh, that's almost my favorite. Even though it's completely un-Star Trek-y, it feels like a pilot to a new series of Star Trek stuff. And I think that's why I really like it. J.J. Abrams just really got that new feeling down, you know. He can do a pilot. Sustaining a TV show. There's hit and miss, but there's merit there.
Yeah.
And for my cat's coming over here. Hang on. No, okay. So I think the Khan stuff for Into Darkness was a complete missed opportunity, and you could actually do some interesting stuff in regards to Starfleet maybe being not so good, you know, not the goody two shoes that we're used to. But there's no exploration of that beyond just throwing in another bad guy and then Khan blows up his brain. But anyways, back to Wrath of Khan. This is it's just such a good movie. Everything, or I think for the most part, the acting is even some of the best of the franchise. I mean, I think there's some little loose screws here and there in the acting department, but it's fine for me. I mean, I'm someone who can like differentiate the past present standards for set design even and stuff like that. Like I'm not someone who goes to screenings of old movies and laughs at them. Apparently people do that, and that's frustrating to me. I've never seen it happen, but that frustrates me to know it exists, you know.
I'm watching all the Bond films one after another.
Oh, nice.
Reviewing the website, and obviously a lot of them are, you know, I think the first one's made in 1962, so they're a bit shonky. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the special effects are a bit shonky. A lot of the gender politics are very shonky and all that. You have to look at it as a piece of filmmaking of its time and judge it on that. You can't just sort of go like, oh well, now special effects are amazing, so why aren't they better in 1962? Like, well, obviously because they're not, because they haven't had 60 years to get them together. You know what I mean? It's people like that. It's annoying when it's like, oh, you can see the wires and stuff like that. Well, yeah, you can, but just enjoy it and shut up.
Yeah, I mean, for other times, you gotta let it slide a little bit. You know, it's sort of like the Disney princess thing, where it's like, yeah, there's maybe some unsavory stuff going on in the old Disney movies, but beyond that, I think they all have a lot of merit and, you know, natural progression. We got Entangled, we got Frozen, and those have been much improved in the female personal stakes department and such. And same thing for Star Trek, I think. Or I mean, no, that's not the point I was making, because there's stuff in Star Trek Into Darkness, like Uhura doesn't really do anything, even though she gets bumped up to the Bones role, like the new Trinity type of thing. And I miss Bones. I miss having a Bones as like one of the official leads. Like, sure, Carl Urban is one of the leads in the new Star Trek movies, but he doesn't get nearly as much to do as the Bones. Like the philosophical ponderings and such at the beginning, when him and Kirk are just talking, they're just having that discreet Romulan rum that he swears he only uses for sterilization and medical purposes. Like, yeah, I miss that stuff. That stuff's so good. It's just these people talking, and then it casually leads into them reflecting on what they've done and who they are and where they're going. Like that stuff's so good to me. You know, a lot of movies. I hate to be that. Oh, movies don't do this anymore, because I don't think that's always a bad thing. But movies really don't take their time that often anymore. You know, everything's so fast. You need it now. And this movie, Khan and Kirk don't actually hash it out until almost the hour mark.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I think we talked about this a bit with when we talk about action movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, actually, sorry, let me go back to a different point. I was talking about this with someone the other day, and we were talking about movies in the 70s, and everything's very slow and everything just happens at its own pace, and it's enjoyable. You know, you sort of get into it and you sit, and sometimes, like, obviously, you know my love of The Exorcist, and that is such a slow movie because it's building to something, and then at the end, it all goes up. Whereas, like, I couldn't, like, if they tried to remake that now, I feel like they'd start with the exorcism, and then there'd be like 5 exorcisms in the movie, just like, whatever. It just wouldn't work. But anyway, sorry, my other point. I'm all over the place this morning. Sorry. When we talk about action movies, and I said like loving Predator, and you were saying about loving Die Hard, it's because it's just that sort of one sentence synopsis, and that's it. You don't need to worry about anything else. There's no need for, like, in Die Hard, you don't need the baddies to suddenly reveal that they're in league with the police or something, or that Hans Gruber is John's father or anything like that. It's just very, very simple. It's like, no, terrorists take over a building and one dude's going to beat all of them. Go. Predator, 6 dudes in a jungle being followed by an alien. Done. Wrath of Khan. Khan wants to kill Kirk. Kirk doesn't want Khan to kill him. Go. And that's it. It's very simple. I think that's, again, going back to Into Darkness, they try too hard to go, oh, and this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. Like, no. Drop all that. Very simple. This guy's a bad guy. This guy's a good guy. They've both got spaceships. Just let it happen, and it will happen. Oh, and Kirk's afraid of getting old, and Khan's a psychopath. And that's it. And then the film just does itself, and you don't need to be going off on wild tangents. It's very, very simple. It just flows, and it's nice, and it's quite funny in parts, and it's very dark as well. And and it has the bit where Kirk screams Khan dead loud for ages, and it's great. And again, Into Darkness just bollocks that up entirely by having Spock do it for no reason. Just there. But yeah, I mean, that, again, sorry to drop places I've lived. I used to live in Turkey, and every year I had a student whose name was Khan. And there was always an opportunity where I'd have to shout down a hall, Khan!
That's fantastic.
Highlight of my school year, because all the Khans were always dead naughty. And sorry if any of them are watching this, or any of their parents are watching this. But there'd always be a thing of just like me saying, Khan, come into class. Khan. And they, like, that used to be very, very fun to be able to do that in context.
Ah, geez, that sounds like the best thing ever.
Yeah, that was good. Like, I did have, like, the YouTube video of Shatner screaming Khan, and would just occasionally play it. Like, I'd be just talking to the kids and like, okay, doing the role at the start of the day, like, okay, Ezra, Mehmet, and then just press the button and just go Khan, like Khan. Joke never died. I lived there for 3 years. That joke once a month.
Wow. By the way, if you were in Star Trek, you would have been like all over the galaxy by now, huh?
Yeah, that's it. I would have been, I've been necking Romulan rum and Romulan ale and just being everywhere. That's it.
Man, you're not a Star Trekker yet, but you're like an Earth Trekker.
That's it. Try my best.
Yeah, that's your Twitter handle, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see what else. Oh, okay. So, with Khan, being such a particularly fond villain for science fiction fans, I guess right now we just get into quick questions thing. Unless you wanted to talk about anything else about Wrath of Khan, you wanna mention?
No, I think, like you say, it's a hard film to talk about because it's just so good, and it's good because it's so simple, and that's the thing. It's like I say. I mean, I can definitely, and I think the good thing as well of having Into Darkness is you can see why Wrath of Khan is so good, because you can see someone trying to make it again and ballsing it up. And I think, like we were saying before we started recording about movies from the 80s and the 70s and liking them, and I just had a thought before. I think we enjoy them because they don't have to do any fan service or cameos or anything like that, because nothing's happened before them. Wrath of Khan doesn't need to reference anything because there isn't anything. Whereas like Into Darkness is trapped in this thing of having to get those Star Trek references out there and have cameos from old Spock and all that, and then it just bogs it down. Whereas Wrath of Khan's like, no, nothing's happened before this. There's nothing to reference. We are what we are, that's it. And I think that's something that we, like, if you watch Die Hard, you don't need references to prequels because nothing's happened yet. And I think that's something. To plug an article I wrote recently, that when I was saying about the argument against continuity, like the idea of just being able to have movies that can stand alone and stuff like that. Whereas because we're doing so many reboots and so many remakes and so many sequels, you keep having to do that of like, oh, well, we'll quickly just have a shot of this guy because he was in a movie that this movie's based on, and so on and so on. That's just me being grouchy and old, I think.
No, I think you make an interesting point, because I mean, last time you and I talked about Mad Max, and before that Terminator, which I still think is the best, to be fair. The original Terminator, and I have not seen Genesis. You did, and I know you were at least a little bit fond of it.
Yeah, no, I did enjoy it. I mean, I know a lot of people hated it, but I had some fun. I think there was definitely, I could see the cracks in it. Like there's like I thought it started really strongly, and then I don't know if I think it's been spoiled for you. Hasn't someone told you?
Yeah. I guess spoilers ahead. I honestly don't know if I'm ever gonna watch it. That's the thing. So I have no interest, to be honest.
A few years or in a hotel room or something.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The sort of like it starts off quite strong, and then actually it's funny because the opening scenes, which are set in the future, are very much like the sequel I pitched to you way back when, like about And I was watching, going, oh my god, nailed it! And then Carl goes back in time and so on and so on, and that's quite tasty. And then there's just a scene where they're walking through a corridor and they open a door, and you see that Sarah and Arnie have built their own time machine. And even like I was enjoying it, but that happened, and I sort of went, uh-oh, what's happening now? And like, okay, I think I'm just gonna let this happen and just see what happens. And then I enjoyed it for what it was. A lot of it was very silly. It wasn't, I think a lot of people got really deeply offended by it and they thought it was that bad. But it was what it was. I've seen worse. But I mean, talking about a movie being bogged down in cameos and callbacks.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up. I was going to mention that. I assume there was many of those in there, and that the movie almost thrived on that, like in the script maybe, or at least in the production. Like obviously you have Arnold doing I'll be back. Does he ever do a talk to the hand type of thing?
He does. There's a running joke of him saying "nice to meet you," which he does about. If he either did it 4 times or 8 times, it happens quite a few times.
Okay, but yeah,
and trying to smile and not being able to.
Oh, okay. So they're really going for that T2 vibe. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But there is like there's some good stuff like there's a catch like a line that Arnie says a few times where he says he's old but not obsolete, and obviously it's very much Arnie talking about himself, like. But it's good. There's quite a good that's good stuff, and you think, okay, do more of that and less of the other stupid stuff. And I don't know. It's by all accounts they're making 2 more of them, so we'll see what happens.
I don't know. I mean, them and Fantastic got a whole little problem about nobody actually wanting to watch the movie beyond a few people. So we'll see what happens with those box office results. But yeah, let's head over to the question section. I got 3 for you. All right. Number 1, this is referring to Wrath of Khan. If you could pluck out Khan, take him out of the movie entirely, put in any other fictional villain into that role, who would it be and why?
Who would it be and why? Hannibal Lecter, I think.
Oh, that's
I put Hannibal in the Botany Bay. That's not the Botany, whatever the ship is. I put Hannibal Lecter there.
Botany Bay. Yeah, that's it.
Botany Bay. Yeah. I think I would put him there because I think that would be interesting because I think he'd be able to outthink Khan. I think the conversations would be definitely a lot crazier, and it would be which Hannibal Lecter? Any of them? All 3 of them? All 3 actors? It would just change with each scene.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say each act. Like, it's the first act like Brian Cox, the second one's Anthony Hopkins, and the third one is Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah, they would just sort of move around, and then because I can imagine Hannibal Lecter quoting Moby Dick. I think the difference is I don't think that Hannibal would go after Kirk. I think once he had the ship, he'd just disappear. I think he wouldn't. I think it's a base emotion to chase after Kirk. And then he'd disappear, and then that would be the end of the movie. And then 4 movies later, Kirk would wake up, and Hannibal Lecter would just be standing over him.
Jeez, Hannibal Lecter in space.
That's it. He'd just be standing over him, eating a tribble like a fucking apple.
Oh wow, that's a thought. Like, Hannibal Lecter's already bad enough here on Earth. What is he gonna do in space with a ship?
Just whole planets just getting eaten. He'd be Galactus.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then question number 2.
Yeah.
Technically same question, but for Kirk, take any other movie hero, put him in that role. Or Spock.
Kirk or Spock.
Yeah. I'll leave it up to you. I forgot to mention those.
I do Kirk and Spock. And I'd swap Kirk with Danny Butterman from Hot Fuzz. But Spock with Nicholas Angel from Hot Fuzz.
Oh, that's great.
They are the Kirk and Spock of Sanford. One is just balls to the wall action, and one of them is cold, efficient logic. And they learn from each other.
Oh, I did not expect an answer that good. That's great. That's fantastic. Okay, and then I got one more question that just popped up because of that. I'll just follow it up immediately. Okay. If you could have any sort of Star Trek movie remade, any of the movies in canon have to be remade in this new timeline, but Michael Bay has to direct it, and this is going to happen. But you get to choose what movie. What movie is it?
I do. I'm trying to think. God, that's tough. I'm just going through the movies in my head. I guess Voyage Home, because that's the closest you're going to see to like an exploding whale, I guess.
That is not true. Have you seen Reno 911 Miami?
I haven't.
Okay. Well, it's funny that you mentioned specifically an exploding whale. I'll just say that.
Okay. All right, I'll check that one out. I don't know. I can't. There's never really been any. Actually, I will say this: Michael Bay, when they were announcing who was going to direct Man of Steel before, what's his name? Zack Snyder.
Snyder.
When Michael Bay's name was chucked in, and I actually for the first time was like, you know what? Give it to him. I think maybe he might make something a bit weird and a bit interesting, and it won't be some morose shit thing, and it might actually have all I want of a Superman movie is Superman to punch someone into the sun. That's all I ask. Don't ask for much. I just want to see someone get punched into the sun.
I don't think it's asking too much either.
Yeah, and I think Michael Bay would have made sure at least 9 people got punched into the sun, and that would have been it. It would have been awful movie. But I feel like it might have been at least something a bit interesting and a bit different, because they keep making these weird, morose Superman movies. Maybe make something a bit cartoony and see what that goes like. But I think that's a conversation for a different podcast.
Oh yeah, that's a whole. We need to have a whole DC discussion on that thing. But yeah, that would be very interesting. It's why I like Bad Boys 2 for some reason, or interested. I won't like it. I'm interested. I'm fascinated.
I think your Bad Boys 2 thing is very much Ash in Aliens. You admire its purity.
Exactly.
It's going to destroy you.
Oh yeah, no, I think it's. It's better than having a drug addiction. I think. I'm just addicted to watching Bad Boys 2. There you go. Okay, and then last question. Oh, okay. Put it away right now. Hang on, my phone is freezing. Okay, really quick. I'll just do it off the top of my head then while I wait. Okay. So, in the upcoming Star Trek movies, Idris Elba is playing the villain. And, Star Trek hasn't really had an outstanding line of villains. They've been good for the most part, but it helps that you have a lot of high-caliber actors in the roles. You have Christopher Plummer, Christopher Lloyd, and now Idris Elba. Who's one actor you'd like to see play a villainous role in a Star Trek movie? And what race would they play?
Ooh. Let me think of my Star Trek races. I think we do need a bit of I think a Klingon baddie is always good. I think they represent something cool. I think I like what they do. I would say I can't go back to Mads Mikkelsen. I've already had him as a baddie. I would say, okay, now this is a bit of a weird one. If this was possible, a baddie Klingon crew, or a baddie crew of just baddie aliens, different races and all that, just like a smuggling crew, and they'd all be played by 80s villains. So you'd have Alan Rickman playing one, Gary Oldman, Malkovich, Gary Sinise, William Dafoe. Just a crew of 80s villains, just each trying to outact the other one, accents flowing wildly. I'd be all over that.
You're good at this. Okay, yeah. That pretty much wraps up our Talking Con with Sean. Plugs. You have many things you like to plug, including a book on Amazon, but I will let you take it from here.
Okay, yeah, no, I have a book on Amazon of short stories called Marrying the Animal. Also, follow me on Twitter at equiatic_bind. One moment. If you are in Australia, for the next 2 weeks, you can buy this. It's a magazine you can buy on the streets. And if I can zoom in and it's not reversed, my name's on.
Yeah, I see it.
Yep, so I'm in this. This is on sale. It went on sale yesterday. It's on sale for 2 weeks, but only for people in Australia, unfortunately. But if you do have access to the big issue, buy it anyway, because it's a great cause and it helps the homeless. So buy it even if I'm not in it, which, I'll go with that. Other than that, lead audiences everywhere. We're killing it at the moment.
Oh, yeah. I'm very proud of what we're doing. Oh, my God.
Yeah, really well. So that's good. And I'm going to put some time today, and I've got, I think I've got 3 or 4 things I need to write up. So, yeah, that's me, I think.
All right. Well, I got some fun stuff coming next week. A really big one that I've wanted to do for a while, involving a little how-to segment for a certain person. So that'll be fun. Yeah, and then obviously, guys, check out everything on the Waffle Press podcast, shenanigans, other stuff. I had 2 separate podcasts with 2 different groups of people talking about what happened with Fantastic Four. It's that movie. Don't watch it, but it's interesting to talk about. It. Yeah, something happened with this movie, and it was a bunch of things. There's no singular issue with it. There are many issues with it, and so I've been trying to figure out what the hell happened with it. But that's just me. Also, follow me on Twitter at Dega Waffles, Waffle Press on Twitter, Facebook, like all that stuff. Follow all that stuff. Subscribe to all that stuff. Tumblr even. with those weird fan fiction stuff. You know, not all of it's weird, but I've seen things. You've seen things. We know what we're talking about. Obviously, follow Sean. Yada yada. Audienceseverywhere.net. Definitely check us out. And that about does it for us today. Thank you again, Sean, for joining me. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Hopefully, I can get you back at the end of the month like we did with Mad Max.
Yep.
I promise I won't make you watch Fantastic Four. I'm going to see if I can come up with a different movie for everyone else to watch. Because last time it was Mad Max, so wrap it off with maybe a better movie. Maybe Alien. Maybe I'll save Alien. Okay. But other than that,
but we'll come back to that.
Yes, definitely. All right. But other than that, thank you so much. And we have been Professionally Unprofessional.